Welcome, crew, guys, gals, ghouls, friends, fiends, foes, whoever may be listening beyond the Omniverse tonight. Secure your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a rocky mountain high, get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners, and settle down snugly at mile marker 420. It is Sunday, June 2nd, Monday, June 3rd, for those of you across the pond and beyond. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, and thanks so much for joining me tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. I'm your host, TessaTNT, and we are broadcasting live from the Mile High Clubhouse tonight. If you are listening live, you may be listening to us on Spreaker.com under We Are Paradox Media, as well as eTalk Radio, which you can find on eTalk.tv/radio, as well as KPNL Radio, which you can find on KPNL Radio at kpnl-db.com. If you want to listen in your free time, whether you're working it, or working out, feel free to listen to us wherever you listen to your podcast. It's pretty simple. So tonight is story time with me, TessaTNT, and we are going to be getting back into Douglas Adams' The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I've been excited about this all week. Because what we read last week was actually pretty awesome. I think we only got like 3 pages into this because we were finishing K is for Killer. But yeah, how about we get right into it? Take out that earbud there. By a curious coincidence, none at all, is exactly how much suspicion the ape descendant Arthur Dent had that one of his closest friends was not descended from an ape, but was in fact from a small planet somewhere in the vicinity of Betelgeuse and not from Guildford, as he usually claimed. Arthur Dent had never, ever suspected this. This friend of his had first arrived on the planet Earth some 15 years previously, and he had worked hard to blend himself into Earth society, with, it must be said, some success. For instance, he had spent those 15 years pretending to be an out-of-work actor, which was plausible enough. He had made one careless blunder, though, because he had skimped a bit on his preparatory research. The information he had gathered had led him to choose the name Ford Prefect as being nicely inconspicuous. He was not conspicuously tall, his features were striking but not conspicuously handsome. His hair was wiry and gingerish and brushed backward from the temples. His skin seemed to be pulled backward from the nose. There was something very slightly odd about him, but it was difficult to say what it was. Perhaps it was that his eyes didn't seem to blink often enough, and when you talked to him for any length of time, your eyes began involuntarily to water on his behalf. Perhaps it was that he smiled slightly too broadly and gave people the unnerving impression that he was about to go for their neck. He struck most of his friends he had made on Earth as an eccentric, harmless one, an unruly boozer with some oddish habits. For instance, he would often gatecrash university parties, get badly drunk, and start making fun of any astrophysicists he could find till he got thrown out. Sometimes he would get seized with oddly distracted moods and stare into the sky as if hypnotized until someone asked him what he was doing. Then he would start guiltily for a moment, relax, and grin. "Oh, just looking for flying saucers," he would joke, and everyone would laugh and ask him what sort of flying saucers he was looking for. "Green ones," he would reply with a wicked grin, laugh wildly for a moment, and then suddenly lunge for the nearest bar and buy an enormous round of drinks. Evenings like this usually ended badly. Ford would get out of his skull on whiskey, huddle in a corner with some girl, and explained to her in slurred phrases that honestly the color of the flying saucers didn't matter that much really. Thereafter, staggering semi-paralytic down the night streets, he would often ask passing policemen if they knew the way to Betelgeuse. The policeman would usually say something like, "Don't you think it's about time you went home, sir?" "I'm trying to, baby, I'm trying to," is what Ford invariably replied on these occasions. In fact, what he was really looking for when he stared distractedly into the sky was any kind of flying saucer at all. The reason he said green was that green was the traditional space livery of Beetlejuice trading scouts. Ford Perfect was desperate that any flying saucer at all would arrive soon because 15 years was a long time to get stranded anywhere, particularly somewhere as mind-boggling dull as the Earth. Ford wished that a flying saucer would arrive soon because he knew how to flag flying saucers down and get lifts from them. He knew how to see the marvels of the universe for less than $30 Altarian a day. In fact, Ford Perfect was a roving researcher for that wholly remarkable book, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Human beings are great adapters, and by lunchtime, life in the environs of Arthur's house had settled into a steady routine. It was Arthur's accepted role to lie squelching in the mud, making occasional demands to see his lawyer, his mother, or a good book. It was Mr. Prosser's accepted role to tackle Arthur with the occasional new ploy, such as the For the Public Good talk or the March of Progress talk, the They knocked my house down once, never looked back talk, and various other cajoleries and threats. And it was the bulldozer driver's accepted role to sit around drinking coffee and experimenting with union regulations to see how they could turn the situation to their financial advantage. The Earth moved slowly in its diurnal course. The sun was beginning to dry out the mud that Arthur lay in. A shadow moved across him again. "Hello, Arthur," said the shadow. Arthur looked up and squinted into the sun, and was startled to see Ford Prefect standing above him. "Ford, hello, how are you?" "Fine," said Ford. "Look, are you busy?" "Am I busy?" exclaimed Arthur. "Well, I've just got all these bulldozers and things to lie in front of because they'll knock my house down if I don't. But other than that, well, no, not especially. Why?" They don't have sarcasm on Beetlejuice. Hey, Mort. And Ford Prefect often failed to notice it unless he was concentrating. He said, "Good. Is there anywhere we can talk?" "What?" said Arthur Dent. For a few seconds, Ford seemed to ignore him and stared fixedly into the sky like a rabbit trying to get run over by a car. Then suddenly, he squatted down beside Arthur. "We've got to talk," he said urgently. "Fine," said Arthur. "Talk." "And drink," said Ford. "It's vitally important that we talk and drink. Now, we'll go to the pub in the village." He looked into the sky again, nervous, expectant. "Look, don't you understand?" shouted Arthur. He pointed at Proser. "That man wants to knock my house down." Ford glanced at him, puzzled. "Well, he can do it while you're away, can't he?" he asked. "But I don't want him to." "Ah." "Look, what's the matter with you, Ford?" said Arthur. Nothing's the matter. Listen to me. I've got to tell you the most important thing you've ever heard. I've got to tell you now, and I've got to tell you in the saloon bar or the Horse and Groom." "But why?" "Because you're going to need a very stiff drink." Ford stared at Arthur, and Arthur was astonished to find his will beginning to weaken. He didn't realize that this was because of an old drinking game that Ford learned to play in the hyperspace ports that served the Madronite mining belts in the star system of Orion Beta. The game was not unlike the Earth game called Indian Wrestling and was played like this. 2 contestants would sit either side of a table with a glass in front of each of them. Between them would be placed a bottle of Jenks Spirit, as immortalized in that ancient Orion mining song. "Oh, don't give me none more of that old Jenks Spirit. No, don't you give me none more of that old Jenks Spirit. For my head will fly, my tongue will lie, my eyes will fry, and I may die. Won't you pour me one more of that sinful old Jenks Spirit?" Each of the 2 contestants would then concentrate their will on the bottle and attempt to tip it and pour spirit into the glass of his opponent, who would then have to drink it. The bottle would then be refilled the game would be played again and again. Making sure the sound is working. Looks like it. Is it too loud? I'm not sure. Let me look over here. No, it doesn't look too loud. It's probably because, like, when I had the music going, it wasn't really coming through, or I couldn't see it coming through. Once you started to lose, you would probably keep losing, because one of the effects of Jink's spirit is to depress telepsychic power. As soon as a predetermined quantity had been consumed, the final loser would have to perform a forfeit, which was usually obscenely biological. Ford Prefect usually played to lose. Ford stared at Arthur, who began to think that perhaps he did want to go to the Horse and Groom after all. But what about my house? He asked plaintively. Ford looked across to Mr. Proser, and suddenly a wicked thought struck him. He wants to knock down your house? Yes, he wants to build, and he can't because you're lying in front of this bulldozer. Yes, and I'm sure we can come to some arrangement, said Ford. Excuse me, he shouted. Mr. Proser, who was arguing with the spokesman for the bulldozer drivers about whether or not Arthur Dent constituted a mental health hazard and how much they should get paid if he did, looked around. He was surprised and slightly alarmed to see that Arthur had company. Yes? Hello? He called. Has Mr. Dent come to his senses yet? Can we, for the moment, called Ford, assume that he hasn't? Well, sighed Mr. Proser. And can we also assume, said Ford, that he's going to be staying here all day? So all your men are going to be standing around all day doing nothing. Could be. Well, if you're resigned to doing that anyway, you don't actually need him to lie here all the time, do you? What? You don't, said Ford patiently, actually need him here. Mr. Proser thought about this. Well, no, not as such, he said. Not exactly need. Proser was worried. He thought that one of them wasn't making a lot of sense. Ford said, so, if you would just like to take it as read that he's actually here, then he and I could slip off down to the pub for half an hour. How does that sound? Mr. Proser thought it sounded perfectly potty. That sounds perfectly reasonable, he said, in a reassuring tone of voice, wondering who he was trying to reassure. And if you want to pop off for a quick one yourself later on, said Ford, we can always cover for you in return. Thank you very much, said Mr. Proser, who no longer knew how to play this at all. Thank you very much. Yes, that's very kind. He frowned, then smiled, then tried to do both at once. Feld grasped hold of his fur hat and rolled it fitfully round the top of his head. He could only assume that he had just won. So, continued Ford Prefect, if you would just like to come over here and lie down. What? Said Mr. Proser. I'm sorry, said Ford. Perhaps I hadn't made myself fully clear. Somebody's got to lie in front of the bulldozers, haven't they? Or there won't be anything to stop them driving into Mr. Dent's house, will there? What? Said Mr. Proser again. It's very simple, said Ford. My client, Mr. Dent, says that he will stop lying here in the mud on the sole condition that you come and take over for him. A babblefish? Oh, they have a video game on this? I would play that. I didn't know they had a video game on this. And this is my first time reading it, so. But I've heard really good things. A babblefish. I guess I'll find out what that is as we read. Alright. What are you talking about? Said Arthur. Ford nudged him with his shoe to be quiet. You want me, said Proser, spelling out this new thought to himself, to come and lie there? Yes. In front of the bulldozer? Yes. Instead of Mr. Dent? Yes. In the mud. in, as you say, the mud. As soon as Mr. Proser realized that he was substantially the loser after all, it was as if a weight lifted itself off his shoulders. This was more like the world as he knew it. He sighed. In return for which you will take Mr. Dent with you down to the pub. That's it, said Ford. That's it, exactly. Mr. Proser took a few nervous steps forward and stopped. Promise, he said. Promise, said Ford. He turned to Arthur. Come on, he said to him. Get up and let the man lie down. Arthur stood up, feeling as if he was in a dream. Ford beckoned to Proser, who sadly, awkwardly, sat down in the mud. My goodness. He felt that his whole life was some kind of dream, and he sometimes wondered whose it was and whether they were enjoying it. The mud folded itself round his bottom, and his arms oozed into his shoes. Ford looked at him severely. And no sneaky knocking Mr. Dent's house down. Well, he's away, all right, he said. The mere thought, growled Mr. Proser. Hadn't even begun to speculate, continued, settling himself back, about the merest possibility of crossing my mind. He saw the bulldozer drivers' union representative approaching and let his head sink back and closed his eyes. He was trying to marshal his arguments for proving that he did not now constitute a mental health hazard himself. He was far from certain about this. His mind seemed to be full of noise, horses, smoke, and the stench of blood. This always happened when he felt miserable or put upon, and he had been able to explain it to himself. In a high dimension of which we know nothing, the mighty Khan bellowed with rage. But Mr. Proser only trembled slightly and whimpered. He began to feel little pricks of water behind his eyelids. Bureaucratic cock-ups, angry men lying in mud. Indecipherable strangers handing out inexplicable humiliation, and an unidentified army of horsemen laughing at him in his head. What a day. What a day. Ford Prefect knew that it didn't matter pair of dingoes' kidneys whether Arthur's house got knocked down or not now. Arthur remained very worried. But can we trust him, he said. Myself, I trust him to end. The end of Earth, said Ford. Oh, yes, said Arthur. And how far's that? About 12 minutes away, said Ford. Come on, I need a drink. Chapter 2. Here's what the Encyclopedia Galactica has to say about alcohol. It says that alcohol is a colorless, volatile liquid formed by the ferment of sugars, and also notes its intoxicating effect on certain carbon-based life forms. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy also mentions alcohol. It says that the best drink in existence is the Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster. Sounds exciting. It says that the effect of drinking a Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster is like having your brain smashed out by a slice of lemon wrapped around a large old gold brick. The guide also tells you on which planets the best Pan-Galactic Gargle Blasters are mixed, how much you can expect to pay for one, and what voluntary organizations exist to help you rehabilitate afterward. The guide even tells you how you can mix one yourself. Take the juice from one bottle of Old Jenks spirit, it says. Pour into it 1 measure of water from the seas of Santraginus V. Oh, that Santraginian seawater, it says. Oh, those Santraginian fish. Allow 3 cubes excuse me, of Arcturian Megagen to melt into the mixture. It must be properly iced or the benzene is lost. Allow 4 liters of Phalian marsh gas to bubble through it, in memory of all those happy hikers who have died of pleasure in the marshes of Phalian. Over the back of a silver spoon float a measure of quilactin hypermint extract, redolent of all the heady odors of the dark quilactin zones, subtle, sweet, and mystic. Drop in the tooth of an Algolian sun tiger. Watch it dissolve, spreading the fires of the Algolian suns deep into the heart of the drink. Sprinkle Zamford, add an olive, drink, but very carefully. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy sells rather better than the Encyclopedia Galactica. 6 pints of bitter, said Ford Perfect to the barman of the Horse and Groom. And quickly, please, the world's about to end. The barman of the Horse and Groom didn't deserve this sort of treatment. He was dignified. A dignified old man. He pushed his glasses up his nose and blinked at Ford Perfect. Ford ignored him and stared out the window. So the barman looked instead at Arthur, who shrugged helplessly and said nothing. So the barman said, "Oh, yes, sir. Nice weather for it," and started pulling pints. He tried again. "Going to watch the match this afternoon, then?" Ford glanced round at him. No point," he said, and looked back at the window. "What's that foregone conclusion, then, you reckon?" "Sir," said the barman. "Arsenal without a chance." No," said Ford. "It's just the world's about to end." "Oh, yes, sir. So you said," said the barman, looking over his glasses, this time at Arthur. "Luckily, escape for Arsenal, if it did." Ford looked back at him, genuinely surprised. "No, not really," he said, and he frowned. The barman breathed in heavily. "There you are, sir. 6 pints," he said. Arthur smiled at him, wanly, and shrugged again. He turned and smiled wanly at the rest of the pub, just in case any of them had heard what was going on. None of them had, and none of them could understand what he was smiling at them for. A man sitting next to Ford at the bar looked at the two men, looked at the 6 pints, did a swift burst of mental arithmetic, arrived at an answer he liked, and grinned a stupid, hopeful grin at them. "Get off," said Ford. "They're ours," giving him a look that would have made an Algolian sun tiger get in with what it was doing. Ford slapped a 5-pound note on the bar. He said, "Keep the change." "What, from a $5? Thank you, sir." "You've got 10 minutes left to spend it." The barman decided simply to walk away for a bit. "Ford," said Arthur, "would you please tell me what the hell is going on?" "It tastes like rum and coke." Doesn't sound too bad. "Drink up," said Ford. "You got 3 pints to get through." 3 pints, said Arthur. "At lunchtime?" The man next to Ford grinned and nodded happily. Ford ignored him. He said, "Time is an illusion. Lunchtime, doubly so." "Very deep," said Arthur. "You should send that into the Reader's Digest. They've got a page for people like you." "Drink up." "Why 3 pints all of a sudden?" "Muscle relaxant. You'll need it." "Muscle relaxant?" "Muscle relaxant." Arthur stared into his beer. "Did I do anything wrong today?" he said. "Or has the world always been like this, and I've been too wrapped up in myself to notice?" "All right," said Ford. "I'll try to explain. How long have we known each other?" "How long?" Arthur thought. About 5 years, maybe 6, he said. Most of it seemed to make some kind of sense at the time. "All right," said Ford. "How would you react if I said that I'm not from Guilford after all, but from a small planet somewhere in the vicinity of Beetlejuice?" Arthur shrugged in a so-so sort of way. "I don't know," he said, taking a pull of beer. "Why do you think it's the sort of thing you're likely to say?" Ford gave up. It really wasn't worth bothering at all at the moment. What with the world being about to end, he just said, "Drink up." He added, perfectly factually, "The world's about to end." Arthur gave the rest of the pub another wan smile. The rest of the pub frowned at him, and man waved at him to stop smiling at them and mind his own business. Oh my god. All right, I'll take that as a measure, and I will do as you proclaim I should. "This must be Thursday," said Arthur to himself, sinking low over his beer. "I never could get the hang of Thursdays." Chapter 3. On this particular Thursday, something was moving quietly through the ionosphere, many miles above the surface of the planet. Several somethings, in fact, several dozen huge yellow chunky slab-like somethings, huge as office blocks, silent as birds. They soared with ease, basking in the electromagnetic rays from the star Sol, biding their time, grouping, preparing. The planet beneath them was almost perfectly oblivious of their presence, which was just how they wanted it for the moment. The huge yellow something went unnoticed at Goonhilly. They passed over Cape Canaveral without a blip. Woomera and Georgewell Bank looked straight through them, which was a pity because it was exactly the sort of thing they'd been looking for all these years. The only place they registered at all was on a small black device called a sub-ether-sensomatic, which winked away quietly to itself. It nestled in the darkness inside a leather satchel which Ford Prefect habitually wore slung around his neck. The contents of Ford Prefect's satchel were quite interesting, in fact, and would have made any Earth physicist's eyes pop out of his head, which is why he always concealed them by keeping a couple of dog-eared scripts for plays he pretended he was auditioning for stuffed in the top. Besides the sub-ether-sensomatic, in the scripts he had an electronic thumb, a short, squat black rod, smooth and matte with a couple of flat switches and dials at one end. He also had a device that looked rather like a largish electronic calculator. This had about 100 tiny flat press buttons and a screen about 4 inches square, on which any one of 1,000,000 pages could be summoned at a moment's notice. It looked insanely complicated, and this was one of the reasons why the snug plastic cover it fitted into had the words "Don't Panic" printed on it in largely friendly letters. The other reason was that this device was in fact the most remarkable of all books ever to come out of the great publishing corporations of Ursa Minor, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The reason why it was published in the form of a micro-sub-meson electronic component is that if it were printed in normal book form, an interstellar hitchhiker would require several inconveniently large buildings to carry it around in. Beneath that, in Ford Prefect's satchel, were a few ballpoints, a notepad, and a largest bath towel from Marks and Spencer. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy has a few things to say on the subject of towels. A towel, it says, is about the most massively useful thing an interstellar hitchhiker can have. Partly, it has great practical value. You can wrap it around you for warmth as you bound across the cold moons of Jaglin Beta. You can lie on it on the brilliant, marble-sanded beaches of Centragnus V, inhaling the heady sea vapors. You can sleep under it beneath the stars, which shine so redly on the desert world of Kakrafun. Use it to sail a mini raft down the slow, heavy river Moth. Wet it for use in hand-to-hand combat. Wrap it round your head to ward off noxious fumes or avoid the gaze of ravenous bug bladder beasts, of Troll, a mind-boggling stupid animal. It assumes that if you can't see it, it can't see you. Daft as a brush, but very, very ravenous. You can wave your towel in emergencies as a distress signal, and of course dry yourself off with it if it still seems to be clean enough. More importantly, a towel has immense psychological value. Thanks, Smart. You're cool too. Oh my goodness. Where'd we go? Oh, Nikes. I love the emergency part. Okay, more importantly, a towel has immense psychological value. For some reason, if a strag, non-hitchhiker, discovers that a hitchhiker has his towel with him, he will automatically assume that he is also in possession of a toothbrush, washcloth, soap, tin of biscuits, flask, compass, map, ball of string, gnat spray, wet weather gear, spacesuit, etc., etc. Furthermore, the stag will then happily lend the hitchhiker any of these or a dozen other items that the hitchhiker might accidentally have lost. What the stag will think is that any man who can hitch the length and breadth of the galaxy, rough it, slum it, struggle against terrible odds, win through, and still know where his towel is clearly a man to be reckoned with. hence a phrase that has passed into hitchhiking slang, as in, "Hey, you sass, that hoppy Ford prefect. There's Frood, who really knows where his towel is." Sass means know, be aware of, meet, have sex with. Goopy, really together guy. Frood, really amazingly together guy. Nestling quietly on top of the towel in Ford Prefect's satchel, the sub-etha Sensomatic began to wink more quickly. Miles above the surface of the planet, the huge yellow somethings began to fan out. At Jodrell Bank, someone decided it was time for a nice, relaxing cup of tea. "You got a towel with you?" said Ford suddenly to Arthur. Why, it's so funny. Okay, get it together. Okay, Arthur, struggling through his third pint, looked around at him. "Why? What note should I have?" He had given up being surprised. There didn't seem to be any point any longer. Ford clicked his tongue in irritation. "Drink up," he urged. At that point, the dull sound of a rumbling crash from outside filtered through the low murmur of the pub, through the sound of the jukebox, through the sound of the man next to Ford hiccuping over the whiskey Ford had eventually bought him. Arthur choked on his beer, leaped to his feet. "What's that?" he yelped. "Don't worry," said Ford. "They haven't started yet." "Thank God for that," said Arthur, and relaxed. "It's probably just your house being knocked down," said Ford, downing his last pint. "It's probably just your house. It's okay. Don't worry." "What?" shouted Arthur. Suddenly, Ford's spell was broken. Arthur looked wildly around him and ran to the window. "My God, they are! They're knocking my house down. What the hell am I doing in the pub, Ford?" "It hardly makes any difference at this stage," said Ford. "Let them have their fun." "Fun?" yelped Arthur. "Fun." He quickly checked out the window again, and they were talking about the same thing. "Damn their fun," he hooted, and ran out of the pub, furiously waving a nearly empty glass of beer. He made no friends at all in the pub that lunchtime. "Stop, you vandals! You homewreckers!" bawled Arthur. "You half-crazed Visigoths, stop, will you?" Ford would have to go after him. Turning quickly to the barman, he asked for 4 packets of peanuts. "There you are, sir," said the barman, slapping the packets on the bar. 28 pence, if you'd be so kind." Ford was greatly kind. He gave the barman another £5 note and told him to keep the change. The barman looked at it and then looked at Ford. He suddenly shivered. He experienced a momentary sensation that he didn't understand because no one on Earth had ever experienced it before. In moments of great stress, every life form that exists gives out a tiny subliminal signal. This signal simply communicates an exact and almost pathetic sense of how far that being is from the place of his birth. On Earth, it is never possible to be farther than 16,000 miles from your birthplace, which really isn't very far, so such signals are too minute to be noticed. Ford Prefect was at this moment under great stress, and he was born 600 light years away in the near vicinity of Betelgeuse. The barman reeled for a moment, hit by a shocking, incomprehensible sense of distance. He didn't know what it meant, but he looked at Ford Prefect with a new sense of respect, almost awe. "Are you serious, sir?" he said in a small whisper, which had the effect of silencing the pub. "You think the world's going to end?" "Yes," said Ford. "But this afternoon?" Ford had recovered himself. He was at his flippest. "Yes," he said gaily. "In less than 2 minutes, I would estimate." The barman couldn't believe this conversation he was having, but he couldn't believe the sensation he had just a second ago. "Isn't there anything we can do about it, then?" he said. "No, nothing," said Ford, stuffing the peanuts into his pocket. Someone in the hush bar suddenly laughed, raucously, at how stupid everyone had become. The man sitting next to Ford was a bit sozzled by now. His eyes weaved from their way up to Ford. "Good, I'm doing my show, son. I'll see you on break. How was your day?" I have to mute. Hold on.
Yes,
Oh, no. You'll never forget it, boy. It's muted, but you have to go because I'm reading a book. See that? That controls all the sound.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hello.
Well, it's muted. They can't hear you. All right. Goodbye, son.
Hi.
Goodbye, Sonny Jim.
Oh. Hi.
All right. Where were we? He wanted me to mute because he said that the dog humped his arm. What the hell? All right. The man sitting next to Ford was a bit sozzled by now. His eyes weaved their way up to Ford. I thought, he said, that if the world was going to end, we were meant to lie down or put a paper bag over our head or something. If you like, yes, said Ford. That's what they told us in the army, he said. Get this out of my screen. That's what they told us in the army, said the man. His eyes began the long trek back towards his whiskey. Will that help? Asked the barman. No, said Ford, and gave him a friendly smile. Excuse me, he said. I've got to go. With a wave, he left. The pub was silent for a moment longer, and then, embarrassingly enough, the man, with a raucous laugh, did it again. The girl he had dragged along to the pub with him had grown to loathe him dearly over the last hour, and it would probably have been a great satisfaction to her to know that in a minute and a half or so he would suddenly evaporate into a whiff of hydrogen, ozone, and carbon monoxide. However, when the moment came, she would be too busy evaporating herself to notice it. She was outside.
I got two of my bullets and lost it.
Okay, son. Sorry. He lost 2 of his Nerf bullets. All right. However, when the moment came, she would be too busy evaporating herself to notice it. The barman cleared his throat. He heard himself say, "Last orders, please." The huge yellow machines began to sink downward and to move faster. Ford knew they were there. This wasn't the way he had wanted it. Running up the lane, Arthur had nearly reached his house. He didn't notice how cold it had suddenly become. He noticed, or didn't notice, the wind. He didn't notice the sudden, irrational squall of rain. He didn't notice anything but the caterpillar bulldozers crawling over the rubble that had been his home. "You barbarians!" he yelled. "I'll sue the council for every penny it's got. I'll have you hung, drawn, and quartered, and whipped, and boiled until you've had enough." Ford was running after him very fast, very, very fast. "And then I will do it again," yelled Arthur. "And when I've finished, I will take all the little bits, and I will jump on them." Arthur didn't notice that the men were running from the bulldozers. He didn't notice that Mr. Proser was staring hectically into the sky. What Mr. Proser had noticed was that huge yellow somethings were screaming through the clouds, impossibly huge yellow somethings. "And I will carry on jumping on them," yelled Arthur, still running, "until I get blisters, or I can think of anything even more unpleasant to do, and then—" Arthur tripped and fell headlong, rolled and landed flat on his back. At last he noticed that something was going on. His fingers shot upwards. "What the hell's that?" he shrieked. Whatever it was raced across the sky in its monstrous yellowness, tore the sky apart with a mind-boggling noise, and leaped off into the distance, leaving the gaping air to shut behind it with a bang that drove your ears 6 feet into your skull. Well, that's a long ways. That's a big skull. Another one followed and did exactly the same thing, only louder. It's difficult to say exactly what the people on the surface of the planet were doing now, because they didn't really know what they were doing themselves. None of it made a lot of sense. Running into houses, running out of houses, howling noiselessly at the noise. All around the world, city streets exploded with people. Cars skidded into each other as if the noise fell on them and then rolled off like a tidal wave over hills and valleys, deserts and oceans, seeming to flatten everything it hit. Only one man stood and watched the sky, stood with terrible sadness in his eyes and rubber bungs in his ears. He knew exactly what was happening and had known ever since his sub-ethos symptomatic had started winking in the dead of night beside his pillow and awakened him with a start. It was what he had waited for all these years, but when he had deciphered the signal pattern sitting alone in his small dark room, a coldness had gripped him and squeezed his heart. Of all the races in all the galaxy, who could have come and said a big hello to planet Earth, he thought. Didn't it just have to be the Vogons? Still, he knew what he had to do. As the Vogon craft screamed through the air high above him, he opened his satchel. He threw away a copy of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. He threw away a copy of Godspell. He wouldn't need them when he was where he was going. Everything was ready. Everything was prepared. He knew where his towel was. A sudden silence hit the earth. If anything, it was worse than the noise. For a while, nothing happened. The great ships hung motionless in the sky over every nation on Earth. Motionless they hung, huge, heavy, steady in the sky, a blasphemy against nature. Many people went straight into shock as their minds tried to encompass what they were looking at. The ships hung in the sky in much the same way that bricks don't. And still, nothing happened. Then there was a slight whisper, a sudden, spacious whisper of open, ambient sound. Every hi-fi set in the world, every radio, every television, every cassette recorder, every woofer, every tweeter, every mid-range driver in the world quietly turned itself off. Every tin, every dustbin, every window, every car, every wine glass, every sheet of rusty metal became activated as an acoustically perfect sounding board. Before the Earth passed away, it was going to be treated to the very ultimate in sound reproduction, the greatest public address system ever built. But there was no concert, no music, no fanfare, just a simple message. People of Earth, your attention please, a voice said, and it was wonderful. Wonderful, perfect, quadraphonic sound with distortion levels so low as to make a brave man weep. This is Prostinik Vogon Jeltz of the Galactic Hyperspace Planning Council, the voice continued. As you will no doubt be aware, the plans for development of the outlying regions of the galaxy require the building of a hyperspatial express route through your star system, and regrettably, your planet is one of those scheduled for demolition. The process will take slightly less than 2 of your Earth minutes. Thank you. The PA died away. Uncomprehending terror settled on the watching people of Earth. The terror moved slowly through the gathered crowds, as if they were iron filings on a sheet of board, and a magnet was moving beneath them. Panic sprouted again, desperate fleeing panic, but there was nowhere to flee to. Observing this, the Vogons turned on their PA again. It said, "There's no point in acting all surprised about it. All the planning charts and demolition orders have been on display in your local planning department in Alpha Centauri for 50 of your Earth years, so you've had plenty of time to lodge any formal complaint, and it's far too late to start making a fuss about it now." The PA fell silent again, and its echo drifted off across the land. The huge ships turned slowly in the sky with easy power. On the underside of each, a hatchway opened, an empty black square. By this time, somebody, somewhere, must have manned a radio transmitter, located a wavelength, and broadcast a message back to the Vogon ships to plead on behalf of the planet. Nobody ever heard what they said. They only heard the reply. The PA slammed back into life again. The voice was annoyed, and it said, "What do you mean? You've never been to Alpha Centauri?" For heaven's sake, mankind, it's only 4 light years away, you know. I'm sorry, but if you can't be bothered to take an interest in local affairs, it's your own lookout. Energize the demolition beams! Light poured out of the hatchways. I don't know, said the voice on the PA. Pathetic, bloody planet? I've no sympathy at all, and it cut off. There was a terrible ghastly silence. There was a terribly ghastly noise. There was a terrible ghastly silence. The Vogon constructor fleet coasted away into the inky, starry void. Chapter 4. Far away, on the opposite spiral arm of the galaxy, 500,000 light years from the star Sol, Zaphod Beeblebrox, president of the Imperial Galactic Government, sped across the seas of Demogran. His ion drive delta boat winked and flashed in the Demogran sun. Demogran the hot, Demogran the remote, Demogran the almost totally unheard of, Demogran, secret home of the Heart of Gold. The boat sped on across the water. It would be some time before it reached the destination because Demogran is such an inconveniently arranged planet. It consists of nothing but middling to large desert islands separated by very pretty but annoyingly wide stretches of ocean. The boat sped on. Because of this topographical awareness, Demogran has always remained a desert planet. This is why the Imperial Galactic Government chose Demogran for the Heart of Gold project, because it was so deserted and the Heart of Gold project was so secret. The boat zipped and skipped across the sea that lay between the main islands of the only archipelago of any useful size on the whole planet. Zaphod Beeblebrox was on his way from the tiny spaceport on Easter Island. The name was an entirely meaningless coincidence. In galactic speak, Easter means small, flat, and light brown. To the Heart of Gold Island, which by another meaningless coincidence was called France. One of the side effects of work on the Heart of Gold was a whole string of pretty meaningless coincidences. But it was not in any way a coincidence that today, the day of culmination of the project, the great day of unveiling, the day that the Heart of Gold was finally to be introduced to a marveling galaxy, was also a great day of culmination for Zaphod Beeblebrox. It was for the sake of this day that he had first decided to run for his presidency, a decision that had sent shockwaves of astonishment throughout the Imperial Galaxy. Zaphod Beeblebrox? President? Not the Zaphod Beeblebrox. Not the president. Many had seen it as clinching proof that the whole of known creation had finally gone bananas. Zaphod grinned and gave the boat an extra kick of speed. Zaphod Beeblebrox, adventurer, ex-hippie, good-timer, rook, quite possibly, manic self-publicist, terribly bad at personal relationships, often thought to be completely out to lunch. President? No one had gone bananas. Not in that way, at least. Only 6 people in the entire galaxy understood the principle on which the galaxy was governed, and they knew that once Zaphod Beeblebrox had announced his intention to run as president, it was more or less a fait accompli. He was ideal presidency fodder. Oh my god, look at that small print. So, with this little asterisk, president, full title president of the Imperial Galactic Government, the term imperial is kept, though it is now an anachronism. The hereditary emperor is nearly dead and has been for many centuries. In the last moments of his dying coma, he was locked in a stasis field which keeps him in a state of perpetual unchangingness. All his heirs are now long dead. And this means that without any drastic political upheaval, power has simply and effectively moved a rung or two down the ladder. and is now seen to be vested in a body that used to act simply as advisors to the emperor. An elected governmental assembly, headed by a president elected by that assembly, in fact, it vests in no such place. The president, in particular, is very much a figurehead. He wields no real power whatsoever. He is apparently chosen by the government, but the qualities he is required to display are not those of leadership, but those of finely judged outrage. For this reason, the president is always controversial, always infuriating, but fascinating character. His job is not to wield power, but to draw attention away from it. On those criteria, Zaphod Beeblebrox is one of the most successful presidents the galaxy has ever had. He has already spent 2 of his 10 presidential years in prison for fraud. Very, very few people realize that the president and the government have virtually no power at all. And of these few people, only 6 know whence ultimate political power is wielded. Most of the others secretly believe that the ultimate decision-making process is handled by a computer. They couldn't be more wrong. What they completely failed to understand was why Zaphod was doing it. He banked sharply, shooting a wild wall of water at the sun. Today was the day when they would realize that Zaphod had been up to. Today was what Zaphod Beeblebrox's presidency was all about. Today was also his 200th birthday, but that was just another meaningless coincidence. As he skipped his boat across the seas of Damagran, he smiled quietly to himself about what a wonderful, exciting day it was going to be. He relaxed and spread his 2 arms lazily along the seat back. He stared with an extra arm he'd recently had fitted just beneath his right one to help improve his ski boxing. Alright, let's leave it right there. We gotta go to our first music break. On this break, we have the lovely, the talented Miss Mia Savage, born and bred in Phoenix, Arizona. She actually found me because I have a paranormal group, and she's very talented as far as like being a medium and stuff. And we met that way, and yeah, we've been friends ever since. But anyway, she's gonna be singing Lemurian Crypto, Let Me Be Your Home, Your Skeleton, and Our New Reality. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this music break.
Tonight, you're mine. You're mine. You're mine.
Welcome back, and thanks so much for joining me this evening on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. And I really mean it. Thanks for hanging out, because otherwise I'm just talking to myself, which, I have really good conversations with myself, but I'd rather be reading the book to you. Right. Hey, he cooed to himself. You're a real cool boy, you. But his nerves sang a song shriller than a dog whistle. The island of France was about 20 miles long, 5 miles across the middle, sandy and crescent-shaped. In fact, it seemed to exist not so much as an island in its own right, as simply a means of defining the sweep and curve of a huge bay. This impression was heightened by the fact that the inner coastline of the crescent consisted mostly entirely of steep cliffs. From the top of the cliff, the land sloped slowly down 5 miles to the opposite shore. On top of the cliffs stood a reception committee. It consisted in large part of the engineers and researchers who had built the Heart of Gold, mostly humanoid, but here and there were a few reptilioid automaneers, 2 or 3 green sylph-like Maximagalaticans, and octopodic Visceralis, or 2, and a Hululu. A Hululu is a super intelligent shade of the color blue. All except for the Hululu were resplendent in their multicolored ceremonial lab coats. The Hululu had been temporarily refracted into a freestanding prism for the occasion. There was a mood of immense excitement thrilling through all of them. Together and between them, they had gone to and beyond the furthest limits of physical laws, restructured in fundamental fabric of matter, strained, twisted, and broken the laws of possibility and impossibility. But still the greatest excitement of all seemed to be to meet a man with an orange sash around his neck. An orange sash was what the president of the galaxy traditionally wore. It might not even have made much difference to them if they'd known exactly how much power the president of the galaxy actually wielded. None at all. Only 6 people in the galaxy knew that the job of the galactic president was not to wield power, but to attract attention away from it. I'm just going to check my sound really quick and make sure. Yep, we're bouncing. We're bouncing, we're good. Zaphod Beeblebrox was amazingly good at his job. Crowd gasped, dazzled by the sun and seamanship, as the presidential speedboat zipped round the headland into the bay. It flashed and shone as it came skating over the sea in wide skidding turns. In fact, it didn't need to touch the water at all because it was supported on a hazy cushion of ionized atoms. But just for the effect, it was fitted with thin fin blades, which could be lowered into the water. The slashed sheets of water, hissing into the air, carved deep gashes in the sea, which swayed crazily and sank back, foaming in the boat's wake, as it careered across the bay. Zaphod loved effect. It was what he was best at. He twisted the wheel sharply. The boat skidded round in a wild, seething skid beneath the cliff face and dropped to rest slightly on the rocking waves. Within seconds, he ran out onto the deck and waved and grinned at over 3 billion people. That's a lot. The 3 billion people weren't actually there, but they watched this, every gesture, through the eyes of a small robot, Tri-D camera, which hovered obsequiously in the air nearby. The antics of the president always made amazingly popular Tri-D. That's what they were there for. He grinned again. 3,000,006 people didn't know it, but today would be a bigger antic than anyone had bargained for. The robot camera homed in for a close-up on the more popular of his two heads, and he waved again. He was roughly humanoid in appearance except for the extra head and third arm. His fair tousled hair struck out in random directions, his blue eyes glinted with something completely unidentifiable, and his chins were almost always unshaven. Keep your chins up. A 20-foot-high, transparent globe floated next to his boat, rolling and bobbing, glistening in the brilliant sun. Inside it floated a wide, semicircular sofa upholstered in glorious red leather. The more the globe bobbed and rolled, the more the sofa stayed perfectly still, steady as an upholstered rock. Again, all done for effect, as much as anything. Zaphod stepped through the wall of the globe and relaxed on the sofa. He spread his two arms along the back, and with the third brushed some dust off his knee. His head looked up, smiling. He put his feet up. At any moment, he thought, he might scream. Water boiled up beneath the bubble. It seethed and spouted. The bubble surged into the air, bobbing and rolling on the waterspout. Up it climbed, throwing stilts of light at the cliff. Up it surged on the jet, the water falling from beneath it, crashing back into the sea hundreds of feet below. Zaphod smiled, picturing himself. He must be so cool. A thoroughly ridiculous form of transport, but thoroughly beautiful. At the top of the cliff, the globe wavered for a moment, tipped onto a railed ramp, rolled down it to a small concave platform, and riddled to a halt. The tremendous applause that Zaphod Beeblebrock stepped out of the bubble, his orange sash blazing in the light. The president of the galaxy had arrived. He waited for the applause to die down, then raised his hand in greeting. "Hi," he said. A government spider sidled up to him and attempted to press a copy of his prepared speech into his hands. Pages 3 to 7 of the original version were at the moment floating soggily in the Damagran Sea, some 5 miles out from the bay. Pages 1 and 2 had been salvaged by a Damagran frond-crested eagle and had already become incorporated into an extraordinarily new form of nest which the eagle had invented. It was constructed largely of papier-mâché, and it was virtually impossible for a newly hatched baby eagle to break out of it. Wow. The Damagran frond-crested eagle had heard of the notion of survival of the species, but I wanted no truck with it. Zaphod Beeblebrox would not be needed. He would not be needing his set speech, and he gently deflected the one being offered him by the spider. "Hi," he said again. Everyone beamed at him, or at least nearly everyone. He singled out Trillian from the crowd. Trillian was a girl that Zaphod had picked up recently while visiting a planet, just for fun, incognito. She was slim, darkish, humanoid, with long waves of black hair, a full mouth, an odd little knob of a nose, and ridiculously brown eyes. With her red head scarf knotted in that particular way that her long flowing silky brown dress, she looked vaguely Arabic. Not that anyone there had ever heard of an Arab, of course. The Arabs had very recently ceased to exist, and even when they had existed, they were 500,000 light years from Damagran. Trillian wasn't anybody in particular, or so Zaphod claimed. She was just around with him rather a lot and told him what she thought of him. "Hi, honey," he said to her. She flashed him a quick, tight smile and looked away. Then she looked back for a moment and smiled more warmly, but by this time he was looking at something else. "Hi," he said to a small knot of creatures from the press who were standing nearby, wishing that he would stop saying hi and get on with his quotes. He grinned at them particularly because he knew that in a few moments he would be giving them one hell of a quote. The next thing he said, though, was not a lot of use to them. One of the officials of the party had irritably decided that the president was clearly not in a mood to read the deliciously turned speech that had been written for him, and had flipped the switch on the remote control device in his pocket. Away in front of them, a huge white dome that bulged against the sky cracked down the middle, split the slowly folded itself down into the ground. Everyone gasped, although they had known perfectly well it was going to do that because they'd built it that way. Beneath it lay uncovered a huge starship, 150 meters long, shaped like a sleek running shoe, perfectly white and mind-bogglingly beautiful. At the heart of it, unseen, lay a small gold box which carried within it the most brain-wrenching device ever conceived. A device that made this starship unique in the history of the galaxy. A device after which the ship had been named, the Heart of Gold. "Wow," said Zephod Beeblebrox to the Heart of Gold. There wasn't much else he could say. He said it again because he knew it would annoy the press. "Wow." And the crowd turned their faces back toward him, expectantly. He winked at Trillian, who raised her eyebrows and widened her eyes at him. She knew what he was about to say, and thought him a terrible show-off. "That is really amazing," he said. "That really is truly amazing. That is so amazingly amazing, I think I'd like to steal it." "A marvelous presidential quote, absolutely true form, bravo." The crowd laughed appreciatively. The newsmen gleefully punched buttons on their sub-etha newsmatics, and the president grinned. As he grinned, his heart screamed unbearably, and he fingered the small Paraliso-matic bomb that nestled quietly in his pocket. Finally, he could bear it no more. He lifted his heads up to the sky, let out a wild whoop in major thirds, threw the bomb to the ground, and ran forward through the sea of suddenly frozen, beaming smiles. Chapter 5. Prostetnic Vogon Jeltz was not a pleasant sight, even for other Vogons. His highly domed nose rose high above a small, piggy forehead. His dark green rubbery skin was thick enough for him to play the game of Vogon civil service politics, and play it well. Waterproof enough for him to survive. Sorry, my fan is going crazy. Enough for him to survive indefinitely at sea depths of down to 1,000 feet with no ill effects. Not that he ever went swimming, of course. His busy schedule would not allow it. He was the way he was because billions of years ago, when the Vogons had first crawled out of the sluggish primeval seas of Vogsphere and had lain panting and heaving on the planet's virgin shores, when the first rays of the bright young Voxel sun had shone across them that morning, it was as if the forces of evolution had simply given up on them there and then, had turned aside in disgust and written them off as an ugly and unfortunate mistake. They never evolved again. They should never have survived. The fact that they did is some kind of tribute to the thick-willing, slug-brained stubbornness of these creatures. Evolution? They said to themselves. Who needs it? And what nature refused to do for them, they simply did without until such time as they were able to rectify the gross anatomical inconveniences of surgery. Meanwhile, the natural forces on the planet Volksphere has been working overtime to make up for their earlier blunder. They brought forth scintillating, jeweled, scuttling crabs, which the Vogons ate, smashing their shells with iron mallets, tall aspiring trees of breathtaking slenderness, and dewy eyes which the Vogons would catch and sit on. They were no use as transport because their backs would snap instantly, but the Vogons sat on them anyway. Thus the planet Vogsphere whiled away unhappy millennia until the Vogons suddenly discovered the principles of interstellar travel. Within a few short Vog years, every last Vogon had migrated to the Megabrantis cluster, the political hub of the galaxy, and now formed the immensely powerful backbone of the Galactic Civil Service. They have attempted to acquire learning, they have attempted to acquire style and social graces, but in most respects the modern Vogon is little different from his primitive forebears. Every year they import 27,000 scintillating jeweled scuttling crabs from their native planet, and while away a happy drunken night smashing them to bits with iron mallets. Prostednik Vogon Jeltz was a fairly typical Vogon in that he was thoroughly vile. Also, he did not like hitchhikers. Somewhere in a small, dark cabin, buried deep in the intestines of Prostednik Vogon Jeltz, his flagship, a small match, flared nervously. The owner of the match was not Vogon, but he knew all about them and was right to be nervous. His name was Ford Prefect, and there's an asterisk there, so I have to read that before I go on with the other stuff. Ford Prefect's original name is only pronounceable in an obscure Betelgeusian dialect, now virtually extinct since the great collapsing Hrung disaster of Gal Sid near 03758, which wiped out all the old Praxabetel communities on Betelgeuse 7. Ford's father was the only man on the entire planet to survive the great collapsing Hrung disaster. By an extraordinary coincidence that he was never able to satisfactorily explain. The whole episode is shrouded in deep mystery. In fact, no one ever knew what a Hrung was, nor why it had chosen to collapse on Betelgeuse 7 particularly. Ford's father, magnanimously waving aside the clouds of suspicion that had inevitably settled him, came to live on Betelgeuse 5, where he both fathered and uncled Ford. So how do you father and uncle? Uh-oh. In memory of his now dead race, he christened him in the ancient Praxabetel tongue. Because Ford never learned to say his original name, his father eventually died of shame, which is still a terminal disease in some parts of the galaxy. Uh-oh. It's kind of like, what is it called? Like heartbreak syndrome or something? Broken heart syndrome? Yeah, kind of like that. Because Ford never learned to say his original name, yeah, he died of... oh, man. Yeah, he died of shame. The other kids at school nicknamed him Ix, which in the language of Betelgeuse 5 translates as boy who is not able to satisfactorily explain what a Hrung is, nor why it should choose to collapse on Betelgeuse 7. Well, that's a lot for one word. He looked about the cabin, but could see very little. Strange, monstrous shadows loomed and leaped with a tiny flickering flame, but all was quiet. He breathed a silent thank you to Dentrasis. Dentrasis are an unruly tribe of gourmands, a wild but pleasant bunch, whom the Vogons had recently taken to employing as catering staff on their long-haul fleets, on the strict understanding that they kept themselves very much to themselves. This suited the Dentresses fine, because they loved Vogon money, which is one of the hardest currencies in space, but loathed the Vogons themselves. The only sort of Vogon in Dentrassi liked to see was an annoyed Vogon. It was because of this tiny piece of information that Ford Prefect was not now a whiff of hydrogen, ozone, and carbon monoxide. He heard a slight groan. By the light of the match, he saw a heavy shape moving slightly on the floor. Quickly, he shook the match out, reaching in his pocket, found what he was looking for, and took it out. He ripped it open and shook it. He crouched on the floor. The shape moved again. Ford Prefect said, "I bought some peanuts." Arthur Dent moved and groaned again, muttering incoherently. "Here, have some," urged Ford, shaking the packet again. "If you've never been through a matter transference beam before, you've probably lost some salt and protein. The beer you had should have cushioned your system a bit." "Rrrr," said Arthur Dent. He opened his eyes. "It's dark," he said. "Yes," said Ford Prefect. It's dark. No light, said Arthur Dent. Dark, no light. One of the things that Ford Prefect had always found hardest to understand about humans was their habit of continually stating and repeating the very, very obvious. As in, it's a nice day, or you're very tall, or oh dear, you seem to have fallen down a 30-foot well. Are you all right? At first, Ford had formed a theory to account for this strange behavior. If human beings don't keep exercising their lips, he thought, their mouths probably would seize up. After a few months of consideration and observation, he abandoned this theory in favor of a new one. If they don't keep on exercising their lips, he thought, their brains start working. After a while, he abandoned this one as well as being obstructively cynical and decided he quite liked human beings after all, but he always remained desperately worried about... But think this is a Canadian word? No, I think it's a misprint. ABUT? The terrible number of things they didn't know about. Yes, he agreed with Arthur. No light. He helped Arthur to some peanuts. How do you feel? He asked him. Like a military academy, said Arthur. Bits of me keep on passing out. Ford stared at him blankly in the darkness. If I asked you where the hell we were, said Arthur weakly, would I regret it? Ford stood up. We're safe, he said. Oh, good, said Arthur. We're in a small galley cabin, said Ford, and one of the spaceships of the Vogan constructor fleet. Ah, said Arthur, this is obviously some strange usage of the word safe that I wasn't previously aware of. Ford struck another match to help him search for a light switch. Monstrous shadows leaped and loomed again. Arthur struggled to his feet and hugged himself apprehensively. Hideous alien shapes seemed to throng about him, and the air was thick with musty smells, which settled into his lungs without identifying themselves. Sorry. And a low, irritating hum kept his brain from focusing. How did we get here? He asked, shivering slightly. We hitched a lift, said Ford. Excuse me, said Arvin. Are you trying to tell me that we just stuck out our thumbs and some green bug-eyed monster stuck his head out and said, Fellas, hop right in. I can take you as far as the Basingstoke roundabout. Well, said Ford, the thumb's an electronic sub-ethos signaling device. The roundabout's a Barnard star 6 light years away, but otherwise, that's more or less right. And the bug-eyed monster is green, yes. Fine, said Arthur. When can I go home? You can't, said Ford Prefect, and found the light switch. Shade your eyes, he said, and turned it on. Even Ford was surprised. Good grief, said Arthur. Is this really the interior of a flying saucer? Prostetnik Vogon Jeltz heaved his unpleasant green body round the control bridge. He always felt vaguely irritable after demolishing populated planets. He wished that someone would come and tell him that it was all wrong so that he could shout at them and feel better. He flopped as heavily as he could onto his control seat in the hope that it would break and give him something to genuinely be angry about. But it only gave a complaining sort of creak. Sorry, my nose itches. Go away, he shouted, the young Vogan guard who entered the bridge at the moment. The guard vanished immediately, feeling rather relieved. He was glad it wouldn't now be him who delivered the report they'd just received. The report was an unofficial release which said that a wonderful new form of spaceship drive was at this moment being unveiled at a government research base on Damogran, which would henceforth make all the hyperspatial express routes unnecessary. Another door slid open, but this time the Vogan captain didn't shout because it was the door from the galley quarters where the Dentrasis prepared his meals. A meal would be most welcome. A huge furry creature bounded through the door with his lunch tray. It was grinning like a maniac. Hey, Anthony, good to see you. A huge furry creature bounded through the door with his lunch tray. It was grinning like a maniac. Prostetnik Vogon Jeltz was delighted. He knew that when Dentrasis looked that pleased with itself. There was something going on somewhere on the ship that he could get very angry indeed about. Ford and Arthur stared around them. "Well, what do you think?" said Ford. "It's a bit squalid, isn't it?" Ford frowned at the grubby mattresses, unwashed cups, and unidentifiable bits of smelly alien underwear that lay around the cramped cabin. "Ew." "Love you too, brother. Good to see you." "Well, this is a working ship, you see," said Ford. "These are Dentrasis sleeping quarters." "I thought you said they were called Vogons or something?" "Yes," said Ford. "The Vogons run the ship. The Dentrasis are the cooks, and let us on board." "I'm confused," said Arthur. "Here, have a look at this," said Ford. He sat down on one of the mattresses and rummaged about in his satchel. Arthur probed the mattress nervously and then sat on it himself. In fact, he had very little to be nervous about, because all mattresses grown in the swamps of Gornchella Zeta are very thoroughly killed and dried before being put in service. Very few have ever come to life again. Ford handed the book to Arthur. "What is it?" asked Arthur. "The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's a sort of electronic book. It tells you everything you need to know about anything. That's its job." Arthur turned it over nervously in his hands. "I like the cover," he said. "Me too. It's really hard to draw hands, but look what they've done. They did it." I wonder if that's what it looks like being an electronic farm. "Don't panic. It's the first helpful or intelligent thing anybody said to me all day. I'll show you how it works," said Ford. He snatched it from Arthur, who was still holding it as if it were a 2-week dead lark, and pulled it out of its cover. "You press this button here, you see, and the screen lights up, giving you the index." A screen about 3 inches by 4 lit up. Characters began to flicker across the surface. "You want to know about Vogons?" So I entered that name, so his finger tapped some more keys, and there we are. The words "Vogon Constructor Fleets" flared in green across the screen. Ford pressed a large red button at the bottom of the screen, and words began to undulate across it. At the same time, the book began to speak, the entry as well, in a still, quiet, measured voice. This is what the book said. "Vogon Constructor Fleets. Here is what to do if you want to get a lift from Vogon. Forget it. They are one of the most unpleasant races in the galaxy. Not actually evil, but bad-tempered, bureaucratic, officious, and callous. They wouldn't even lift a finger to save their own grandmothers from the ravenous bug-bladder beasts of Trawl without orders signed, in triplicate, sent in, sent back, queried, lost, found, subjected to public inquiry, lost again, and finally buried in South Peak for 3 months and recycled as firelighters. Best way to get a drink out of a Vogon is to stick your finger down his throat, and the best way to irritate him is to feed his grandmother to the ravenous bug-bladder beast of Trawl. On no account allow a Vogon to read poetry at you." Arthur blinked at it. "Sorry, I just heard a horrible noise back there." "What a strange book. How did we get a lift, then?" "That's the point. It's out of date now," said Ford, sliding the book back into its cover. "I'm doing the field research for the new revised edition, and one of the things I'll have to do is include a bit about how the Vogons now employ Dentrasi cooks, which gives us a rather useful little loophole." A pained expression crossed Arthur's face. "But who are the Dentrasis?" he said. "Great guys," said Ford. "They're the best cooks and the best drink mixers, and they don't give a wet slap about anything else. And they'll always help hitchhikers aboard, partly because they like the company, but mostly because it annoys the Vogons, which is exactly the sort of thing you need to know if you're an impoverished hitchhiker trying to see the marvels of the universe for less than 30 Altarian dollars a day. And that's my job. Fun, isn't it?" Arthur looked lost. "It's amazing," he said, and frowned at one of the other mattresses. "Unfortunately, I got stuck on Earth for a rather long time than I intended." I came for a week and got stuck for 15 years. But how did you get there in the first place then? Easy. I got a lift with a teaser. A teaser? Yeah. What is that? A teaser. Teasers are usually rich kids with nothing to do. They cruise around looking for planets that haven't made interstellar contact yet and buzz them. Buzz them? Arthur began to feel that Ford was enjoying making life difficult for him. Yeah, said Ford. They buzz them. They find some isolated spot with very few people around, then land right by some poor unsuspecting soul, whom no one's ever going to believe, and then strut up and down in front of him, wearing silly antennas on their head and making beep-beep noises. Rather childish, really. Ford leaned back on the mattress with his hands behind his head and looked infuriatingly pleased with himself. Ford, insisted Arthur. I don't know if this sounds like a silly question, but what am I doing here? Well, you know that, said Ford. I rescued you from Earth. And what's happened to Earth? It's been demolished. Has it? Said Arthur levelly. Yes, it just boiled away into space. Look, said Arthur. I'm a bit upset about that. Ford frowned to himself and seemed to roll the thought around his mind. Yes, I can understand that, he said at last. Understand that? Shouted Arthur. Understand that? Ford sprang up. Keep looking at the book, he hissed urgently. What? Don't panic. I'm not panicking. Yes, you are. All right, so I'm panicking. What else is there to do? You just come along with me and have a good time. The galaxy's a fun place. You'll need to have this fish in your ear. Uh-oh. Is this the babble fish that you're talking about? I beg your pardon? Asked Arthur. Rather politely, he thought. Ford was holding up a small glass jar, which quite clearly had a small yellow fish wriggling around in it. Arthur blinked at him. He wished there was something simple and recognizable he could grasp hold of. He would have felt safe if alongside the Dentras's underwear, the piles of Scornchellus mattresses, and the man from Beetlejuice holding up a small yellow fish and offering to put it in his ear. He had been able to see just a small packet of cornflakes, but he couldn't and didn't feel safe. Suddenly, a violent noise leaped at them from no source that he could identify. He gasped in terror at what sounded like a man trying to gargle while fighting off a pack of wolves. Said Ford, listen, it might be important. Important? That's the Vogan captain making an announcement in the tannoy. You mean that's how the Vogans talk? Listen. But I can't speak Vogan. You don't need to. Just put this fish in your ear. Ford, with a lightning movement, put his hand to Arthur's ear, and he had the sudden sickening sensation, the fish slithering deep into the oral tract. Gasping with horror, he scrabbled at his ear for a second or so, but then slowly turned, goggle-eyed with wonder. He was experiencing the oral equivalent of looking at a picture of two black silhouetted faces, and suddenly seeing it as a picture of a white candlestick, or of looking at a lot of colored dots on a piece of paper, which suddenly resolve themselves into the figure 6 and mean that your optician is going to charge you a lot of money for a new pair of glasses. He was still listening to the howling gargles. He knew that, only now, it had somehow taken on the semblance of perfectly straightforward English. This is what he heard.
2 chickens are missing.
Okay, I'll check.
Not anywhere in the yard.
No, they might be in the coop.
I counted every single one in the coop.
They could be on the top rung.
Still counted that too.
Okay, well, can you go? I'm about to go on break and then I'll come out
9
and
in coop, 9 in one coop, 1 in the other.
Okay.
Which Peggy is in the other one.
Alright. I'll come look in a bit.
Gazi's still out hanging out with Bill.
Okay. Thanks, Sonny. Howl, howl, gargle, howl, gargle, howl, howl, gargle, howl, gargle, howl, howl, gargle, gargle, howl, gargle, 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 howl, slurp, burp. Should have a good time. Message repeats. This is your captain speaking. so stop whatever you're doing and pay attention. First of all, I see from our instruments that we have a couple of hitchhikers aboard. Hello, wherever you are. I just want to make it totally clear that you are not at all welcome. I worked hard to get where I am today, and I didn't become captain of wagon constructorship simply so I could turn it into a taxi service for a load of degenerate freeloaders. I have sent out a search party, and as soon as they find you, I will put you off the ship. If you're very lucky, I might read you some of my poetry first. Secondly, we are about to jump into hyperspace for the journey to Bernard's star. On arrival, we will stay in dock for a 72-hour refit, and no one's to leave the ship during that time. I repeat, all planet leave is cancelled. I've just had an unhappy love affair, so I don't see why anybody else should have a good time. Message ends. The noise stopped. Arthur discovered, to his embarrassment, that he was lying curled up in a small ball on the floor, with his arms wrapped round his head. He smiled weakly. Charming man, he said. I wish I had a daughter so I could forbid her to marry one. You wouldn't need to, said Ford. They've got as much sex appeal as a road accident. No, don't move, he added as Arthur began to uncurl himself. You'd better be prepared for the jump into hyperspace. It's unpleasantly like being drunk. What's so unpleasant about being drunk? You ask a glass of water. Arthur thought about this. Ford, he said. Yeah? What's this fish doing in my ear? It's translating for you. It's a babblefish. Look it up in the book if you like. He tossed over the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and then curled himself up into a fetal ball to prepare himself for the jump. At that moment, the bottom fell out of Arthur's mind. His eyes turned inside out. His feet began to leak out of the top of his head. The room folded flat around him, spun around, shifted out of existence, and left him sliding into his own navel. Ew. They're passing through hyperspace. The babblefish, said the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy quietly, is small, yellow, and leech-like. Probably the oddest thing in the universe. Feeds on brainwave energy received not from its own carrier, but from those around it. It absorbs all unconscious mental frequencies from this brainwave energy to nourish itself with. It then excretes into the small of its carrier a telepathic matrix formed by combing the conscious thought frequencies with nerve signals picked up from the speech centers of the brain, which has supplied them. The practical upshot of all this is that if you stick a babblefish in your ear, you can instantly understand anything said to you in any form of language. The speech patterns you actually hear decode the brainwave matrix, which has been fed into your mind by your babblefish. Now it is such a bizarrely improbable coincidence that anything so mind-bogglingly useful could have evolved purely by chance, that some thinkers have chosen to see it as a final and clinching proof of the non-existence of God. The argument goes something like this. I refuse to prove that I exist, says God, for proof denies faith, and without faith I am nothing. But, says man, the babblefish is a dead giveaway, isn't it? It could not have evolved by chance. It proves you exist, and so therefore, by your own arguments, you don't. Cued. Oh dear, says God, hadn't thought of that, and promptly vanishes into a puff of logic. Oh, that was easy, says man, and for an encore goes on to prove that black is white and gets himself killed on the next pedestrian crossing. Most leading theologians claim that this argument is a load of dingo's kidneys, but that didn't stop Hulafid from making a small fortune when he used it as the central theme of his best-selling book. That about wraps it up for God. Meanwhile, poor babblefish, by effectively removing all barriers to communication between different races and cultures, has caused more and bloodier wars than anything else in the history of creation. Arthur let out a low groan. He was horrified to discover that the kick through hyperspace hadn't killed him. He was now 6 light years from the place that Earth would have been if it still existed. The Earth. Visions of it swam sickeningly through his nauseated mind. there was no way his imagination could feel the impact of the whole earth having gone. It was too big. He prodded his feelings by thinking that his parents and his sister had gone. No reaction. He thought of all the people he had been close to. No reaction. Then he thought of a complete stranger he had been standing behind in the queue at the supermarket 2 days before and felt a sudden stab. Supermarket was gone. Everybody in it was gone. Nelson's column had gone. Nelson's column had gone, and there would be no outcry, because there was no one left to make an outcry. From now on, Nelson's column only existed in his mind. England only existed in his mind. His mind, stuck here in the stank-smelly, still-lined spaceship. A wave of claustrophobia closed in on him. England no longer existed. He'd got that. Somehow he'd got it. He tried again. America, he thought, has gone. He couldn't grasp it. He decided to start smaller again. New York has gone. No reaction. He'd never seriously believed it existed anyway. The dollar, he thought, has sunk forever. Slight tremor there. Every Bogart movie has been wiped, he said to himself, and that gave him a nasty knock. McDonald's, he thought. There's no longer any such thing as McDonald's hamburger. He passed out. When he came round a second later, he found he was sobbing for his mother. He jerked himself violently to his feet. Ford! Ford looked up from where he was sitting, in a corner humming to himself. He always found the actual traveling through space part of space travel rather trying. Yeah, he said. If you're a researcher on this book thing and you were on Earth, you must have been gathering material on it. Well, I was able to extend the original entry a bit, yes. Let me see what it says in this edition. Oh, excuse me. It is. Okay. Yeah, okay. He passed it over again. Arthur grabbed hold of it and tried to stop his hands shaking. He pressed the entry for the relevant page. The screen flashed and swirled and resolved into a page of print. Arthur stared over his shoulder. Can you wait a minute?
No.
Yes, it does, he said. Down there, see at the bottom of the screen, just above Eccentrica, the Lambits, the triple-breasted core of Eroticon 6. Alright, you guys, we're going to have to go to our second music break. On this break, we have, once again, Miss Mia Savage with her band, which is her, called Antidote for Savages. If you want to check them out, you can check them out on Pinterest, I believe. Or, no, it's Instagram. She's going to be singing one of my favorites, Bury Me in Heaven, Not a Phase, Singing to Your Grave, and The Bottom Line. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this music break.
Just a choice right now between fear and love. Choice right now between fear and love.
All right. Welcome back, guys. Thanks so much for joining me tonight on Clear Products Media's Late Night in the Rockies. So yeah, Floyd came in and let me know that my little Polish hen is no longer with us. Something got her. Like, when I went out and found her, there was no head. Very freaking sad. And especially the kids finding her, you know? I really hate that. But anyways, we're going to continue on with our show here, just making sure the sound is going. Looks like it's good. So, I put a message there in the message board. Would you guys like to read some more of Hitchhiker's Guide for the Galaxy, or shall we continue on with a creepy video? So I haven't heard anything yet from anyone in the chat here, so we shall continue on with the video. What do you think? Let's do it.
What's up, guys? Midwest Ghost Hunter here, bringing you yet another Ghost Hunting Alone.
And I also want to say, YouTube, I talked to Ian, and he actually said that I could use his videos, so don't block or take off my video. Thank you.
Video. Tonight I've returned to the Roselawn Cemetery, said to be one of the most haunted cemeteries in Minnesota. Now, this cemetery dates back to 1886, when the highly revered Colonel William Marshall buried his warhorse down in his land.
Century stink. So yeah, we might just do a third hour of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy if the internet's going to be doing this crap.
The land would eventually be sold, and it would be converted into a public cemetery in 1902. It is believed that many different spirits still haunt their grave sites and mausoleums. One being Don the Warhorse himself. It is said that if you visit his gravesite late at night, you may hear the sounds of disembodied galloping through the moonlit grass, and if you look closely, you will see hoof prints left behind. There's also been reports of disembodied whispers being heard calling out, unexplained footsteps, electronics malfunctioning, and shadowy figures peering out from behind tombstones. However, the most notorious spirit has been dubbed by locals as Smiling Jack. Local police will receive calls reporting a man being trapped inside of one of the mausoleums, begging to get out. However, when the police arrive, there is no sign of anyone inside, and the mausoleum is completely locked. I'm going to be investigating all of these claims completely alone tonight. You can hear the toads chirping in the background. The mosquitoes are going to start coming out. There's definitely a creepy atmosphere as the sun starts to set. But anyways, be sure to like the video, guys, if you enjoy it. Comment your thoughts on anything.
Also, please go to Midwest Ghost Hunter and subscribe. He's up to 67,000. The job Ian, let's get him to 100,000 and then perhaps 1 million. But yeah, he does a really good job. To me, he's just very entertaining, and I love the fact that he goes out and does this on his own. Yeah, good job, Ian. Thank you so much for sharing your videos with us, and let's go. Let's do this.
Goes down here, and subscribe if you haven't already. But anyways, enough of me talking. Let's get to the investigation.
Let's go.
Alright, here we go. There's definitely a very creepy atmosphere out here right now. Just walking through here, it's like now that the sun has gone down, all the spirits are awakening. Hello, my name is Ian. Are there any spirits here that'd like to speak to me? Could you give me a sign of your presence somehow? There's a lot of traffic out here in the city of Roseville, so we'll definitely have to keep that in mind when listening for sounds. Are there any spirits over here? Could you show yourself? Here's one of the mausoleums. That's one of the things the cemetery is known for, is the crazy amount of mausoleums that this place has. I mean, it's like a whole neighborhood. You got this one here, and then there's one like way over there. I don't know if you can see it. I'll be going over there here in a second. They're just everywhere here.
How are you?
Let's take a look at this one.
I saw the message.
Okay.
Inside. You see that? Pictures of the people.
So me and Dad are gonna go down to Walmart because it closes at 11 because
You can see like a stained glass window.
But Lily accidentally
It's really interesting
closed.
seeing
Right,
inside
right.
these things.
No, Family Dollar's still open.
Check out this one over here.
Yeah, it closes at 10.
It doesn't have mouses.
Hello?
Are you sure? You gotta ask. Did you have that?
Anyone over here?
Counter?
I'm gonna try knocking on it. Let's see what happens.
Let me go.
Me too.
Oh wow, that's a nice couple right there.
He looks like he's pouting.
She's on this side. Looks like a lady. Hello, is anyone home?
Creepy. What if they knock back, or you heard somebody say, "Come in"? That would really creep me out.
Don't sense anyone in there.
Nope.
I'm gonna try to take a bunch of photos, see if I can get any unusual anomalies.
Yep. Oh, sorry. I gotta go back over to this. I won't do that.
Are there any spirits still haunting this cemetery?
What is that?
Why do you still haunt this place?
It's like a reflector?
Could you peek out from behind your tombstone?
Boss.
Not get anything yet.
He's actually been to the cemetery before and got some really
Sometimes it
epic
can take a
evidence.
while.
Yeah.
I know my videos sometimes seem like one thing after another, but there's a lot of parts where nothing's happening and all that stuff gets cut out, so it definitely takes a lot of patience to be a paranormal investigator.
Kind of like fishing. But for ghosts.
Now this mausoleum here, up ahead, this one gives me the
So what was that
heebie-jeebies.
reflector thing next to it that just
Because
disappeared?
look.
What the heck?
Unlike the others, it is completely sealed. Like they bricked this whole mausoleum.
It's granite. It's got
Like you
those
can see where
sparklies
the
in it.
door used to be. Right here.
Oh, wow.
But it's been
Why'd they seal it up? I wonder
Like,
if people
literally,
kept
like
breaking
you
in or
did.
something.
take a sledgehammer to get in there. And it makes me wonder why they would seal it.
Exactly.
Like, what reason would they have to do that?
That's
I don't
weird.
know. It's pretty weird.
We're gonna go check if there's Rockies there. Okay.
Whoa, what was that? Hello?
Okay.
Hello? Okay. I just heard something right ahead of me here. Are you the spirit that haunts this mausoleum? Are you over here? Give me a sign if you're here.
Anybody out there? That happened last time. It was like a kid.
Okay, that was over
running
here.
by.
Hello? Hello? There's nobody.
Ian is so brave. I could not freaking do this.
Footsteps walking around this. Where'd you go? I'm hearing you. But I don't see you.
Like,
Could you show yourself?
are you gonna hang out at the cemetery or with family members? Like, what's your plan for the other side? I don't know if I'd hang out in the cemetery unless, like, you know, when people come through the gate, is it like a doorbell that goes ding dong?
Man, that was weird.
And
There's
then
like a bunch
you
of
disappear
footsteps
and you can mess with them.
circling this
That'd
whole
be cool, but
mausoleum.
otherwise, I'm
But now
not
they're
gonna hang out there. I'm not gonna be it. I love that effect when he does his screen switch. Tito.
I don't know if it's just my eyes playing tricks on me, but I swear to God, I keep seeing like shadows moving around.
Mm-hmm.
But they're
There's
kind
something
of
just
far
touched
away.
me.
It's hard to tell.
I didn't like it.
Yeah,
What was that? I gotta turn up my volume.
I think it's my eyes playing tricks on me.
Could be. You never know.
But if it isn't, hopefully the camera picks up on them. Okay, there we go. I just fucking saw one right over there. Just in between that tree and the vault.
And shadow people are not
Hello?
hanging out in cemeteries. I don't know if you know that.
Who's over there?
Be careful.
Could you show yourself? I'm freaked out, guys, but I'm gonna go towards it.
You're
That's
so
what we do on
brave.
this channel.
Brave
Go
man.
towards the scary.
Of course, the scary.
Oh, it's cold over here. I can feel the difference. Is there
Wow.
someone over here? I can feel your presence. I wonder if it has anything to do with this mausoleum. Maybe the spirit is tied to it somehow. Let's look inside. Hello? Anyone in there? If you can hear my voice,
Man,
would you speak into this red light? Definitely going to have to review that later. Interesting little bird chirping in the background. Gives me a little company, I guess.
It's missing from my little Carol. She used to peep all the time because, like, she had those feathers in her face and she'd get lost.
Oh, what was that? That was like a voice. I just heard someone talking. Holy crap.
Hello, sir. Wow.
Hello?
That's crazy. Kenson? I've never heard that name before.
It sounded like a man's voice. I came from this way.
Hello, sir.
Over by these tombstones. Is there someone over here?
Pretty intricate.
Okay. Holy sh**. I heard that loud and clear.
I wonder if that's Mr. Hinton or the guy from the magazine. Yeah,
who are you? Why are you here? Could you speak again? Guys, there is nobody over here. But yet, I just heard somebody clear as day.
I could not do this by myself. What the heck? You're serious?
Holy
Jesus,
crap.
Pete.
That was right behind me.
What did it say? Wow.
Are you a spirit that is attached to one of these graves?
It's gotta be.
Oh, whoa.
Whoa.
Holy moly.
Did you see that?
That was just an orb.
I'm over here, then it just ran.
Just floated across this tombstone.
Crazy.
Is this your gravesite?
A dust
Could
particle.
you speak one last time? And tell me if this is your tombstone. This is really strange, guys. But the chills I was feeling just a second ago have suddenly vanished. Suddenly feels normal over here. I think whoever that was is gone now. He's completely gone.
What?
Whoa! Whoa, whoa, whoa!
Maybe they're trying to get out.
Bang. Came from in here.
Is this the one that spoke
I
up?
can really hear it echoing. Hello? Is someone in here?
No, it's not. This is a different one.
If that was you, could you make that sound again?
Creepy.
Dang, that was crazy loud.
Could you imagine if there was, like, eyeballs on the other side?
No way to get in these. That is completely
And why would you want to?
This here is a interesting spot.
That is interesting.
Right there.
What is that?
Center
The little fire?
is a sphere with a bunch of handprints on
What?
it. And what you do is you walk down this
That's
little
weird.
spiral path that leads up to it. And once you eventually get to it, you put your hands on it.
Weird.
And you try to find a hand that fits your hand. It's kind of strange, but interesting feature. I've never seen something like this before in a
Kind of creepy.
cemetery. Yeah, I can
Just to be honest, it reminds me of before my mom was killed by a drunk driver when I was a kid. The place we lived in, Siloam Springs, Arkansas, we poured concrete and we all put our handprints in there. So it goes from like oldest to youngest. And last time I saw it, put my hand in my mom's handprint and the same exact hand size. But that's kind of what it reminds me of. But having this in the cemetery is pretty weird, but interesting at the same time. I want to go back to that house because it's still there before all the handprints are gone. Dig it up and take it up to the cemetery where my mom and dad are buried, and that way it'll be in the family like forever.
And see all these different handprints just all around it.
That's so creepy.
Not gonna lie, this thing looks really eerie.
Yeah.
Infrared. Are there any spirits in this area? Could you give me a sign if you're here?
What? Like something touching that.
This thing just made a noise. What the heck? Dude, what the heck? This thing's making weird noises.
Yeah, they're hitting
photo
it.
of it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, weird. Dude, there's like a bunch of orbs all around it.
Yeah, they're playing with it. It's probably those kids.
There's orbs floating everywhere.
6 instead of 5.
All around this thing.
Wow. Nice form. That ain't us.
Okay, I gotta see what's going on with this thing. What the heck?
That's crazy.
What would cause that noise?
Somebody
That was you.
Their hands
Did you
on
make that sound again? Man, that was weird. I don't know why this thing would be making noises like that. That was so bizarre.
it. It sounds like somebody
This
touching
thing really
it.
is creepy after all.
I'm telling you.
Anyone over here? Like I said, this place has so many mausoleums. They almost outnumber the tombstones.
Larkin. Is it Larkin or Larky? I think it's Larkin. I think that was an N on an E. Could you imagine if something knocked back? What are you doing? What is that?
Nobody home there. Whoa, what the fuck?
What was
Did
that?
that just move?
What?
That freaking angel just turned and looked at me.
What?
Do you see that? It's looking right at me. I'm actually really creeped out by
Are you
this.
serious? Can you replay that?
I want to go towards it.
Hey.
Where's your show over?
Oh my gosh, that thing just moved. Here in about
Oh
20
God.
minutes.
Okay.
23 minutes.
Okay,
Hello?
me too.
Who just moved this statue? How the hell do you explain that?
I can't believe that freaking happened.
She was
That's
facing
so
this way. Just like
She just turns.
Mother Mary here. And now look, she literally turned like 90 degrees. All by herself.
So freaking weird.
I mean, that is supernatural. I don't know how else you would explain that.
Not
Did someone
normal,
just move
for
this angel
sure.
statue?
Paranormal.
I'm actually going to try to get the K2 meter. See if I can get any communication.
K2, how about you?
Is there a spirit here with me right now? If you are indeed a spirit, could you touch that green light? Right there. It's called a K2 meter. It's a way that I can communicate with you. Are you here with me? Thank you. Yes. Did you move this angel statue? If so, touch the green light.
Yeah.
You are.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
I wonder if that's
Is this your mausoleum?
Or what?
I take it. Does this mausoleum contain your body? Yes.
I would hope so.
Thank you.
Ooh,
That
why
means
is it there?
your last name must be Pearson, right?
Pearson.
Is your last name Pearson? Yes. Thank you. Pearson, I have a request for you if that's okay. Since you moved that angel statue just now, would you be able to move it again? If so, touch the green light.
Could you imagine if that happened?
Ooh. Okay.
If I was him,
Okay.
I would totally crap my pants. Seriously?
What? See that? Holy shit, it just moved again.
Oh my
I cannot
God.
believe that. Thank you.
This is insane.
Thank you so much. I'm not going to ask any more from you, okay? Just going to grab my canoe.
Amazing.
Oh my god, dude, I cannot believe that. Best of all, I caught that on camera. I know I did. Holy crap.
Twice. Freaking weird. Oh my goodness.
Hello?
Hello?
Is anyone in the cemetery with me?
Sure hope not. Whoa.
Weird. I think I got something in the background. What is that?
It's an orb.
It's like a light or glow or something.
Yeah, it's glowing orb.
It's gone now. It's gone.
So he said it's blue. I can't really see blue, but I believe
What in
him.
the world was that? It was way down over here. In this area. Hello? Whoa, dude, I just heard rustling.
Wow. I
What
wonder
was
if
that?
it's like that other tombstone that had the
This
two
grave
trees
over here.
growing next to it that are way too
Who's
close.
over
But
there?
when they're little, you don't really think about
I
how
mean, you
big
know
they're
how-
going to get. Is that the same one? I think so.
Weird, this grave is like buried in the trees.
That's what I'm saying.
You can't even see it. There it is.
Grove?
Grove.
Wow.
It's definitely a fitting name.
Right?
That you who moved these bushes?
A little grove of trees there.
Oh, jeez.
What the frick, dude?
I take it as a yes. Holy crap. God damn,
Would you stay
that nearly
there?
gave me a
I
heart
don't think I
attack.
could.
I mean, to be fair, there could be birds in here. I'm gonna look around. I didn't hear any flapping noises. Oh gosh. Oh, please don't scare me again. I'm not seeing any birds or anything. Oh. I know you're probably thinking I'm a crazy person right now. I don't know.
Brave.
I don't know what to make of that.
And you know he didn't do that himself because he's got a camera in his hands. And you'd have to have both hands for that. That's amazing.
Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think that's paranormal? Or was that just natural? I really don't know. I mean, I've had birds fly out of the
Supernatural.
bushes before and scare the living crap out of me, so I don't know.
That's crazy. Killer families? Why is it families?
It's been pretty quiet here since that last bit of activity. But even when it's quiet, it's kind of nice just walking around here. There's a lot to look at. All the cool graves, statues, mausoleums. Not to mention, this place is huge. It's easy to get lost here.
What's gonna happen now? I just feel like something's gonna happen.
Oh.
Door's open.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. You see that?
Ah.
The door's open in this one.
Yeah.
Whoa, that is really unusual.
It is.
You normally never
Come
see
on
this.
in.
All these vaults are kept locked. So it makes you wonder, how did this open? Either someone would have had to have had a key, or something opened it from inside.
Well, go on.
Hello?
I want to see the pictures.
Is anyone in there?
I think there's a few people in there.
Holy
Say it again, I didn't hear that.
someone just said hello.
Wow.
Hi. What's your name? My name is Ian.
Seriously?
I've got chills. I've got chills.
What is that? Let's hear. What is
Holy,
that?
this is insane. I wonder if I should go inside of it. I don't know. That's a
I
good
would
idea.
at least peek in there really quick and look at the.
Whoa!
No.
Whoa! Did that just
Yeah,
move?
go in. I want you to go
The
in.
door just opened even more! Even more!
This is insane. I'm telling you. I can't believe he only has 67,000 fucking subscribers. Pardon my French, but
Holy
it should be millions.
It's like it's inviting me. Inviting me to come in.
Come on in, Ian.
I don't
Let's
know.
go.
I don't know if it's a good idea for me to go in
Want
there.
some fucking cookies, little boy?
Damn, am I curious.
I'd do it.
Okay. Let's just do it. Alright.
Or would I?
Hope you don't mind. Coming in, okay?
Wow. Look at him.
Jeez Louise. It is really creepy in here.
I want to see the pictures. It looks like there's two pictures and the other one's blank.
Is this what you wanted? Did you want me to come in? Because I'm in here now. Who haunts this mausoleum? Is it one of you? In these pictures?
Oh, it's just David.
Keeping an eye on that door. That
What
thing
if it
closes.
closes?
You're going to hear me scream.
Yeah. That would be my luck. It's like, alright, you're staying. You're our guest now. Oh, something touch you?
I just felt something touch my neck.
Weird.
Did you just touch me? I felt you just touch me.
So
Really
creepy.
eerie feeling in here, guys.
Creepy creeps. Creeps, creeps. What?
What was that?
The pebble hitting the door or that gate? Oh, shit. Oh my gosh.
Oh, God.
Oh my gosh.
Get me out of there. Oh,
Get out of there.
oh God.
That was crazy.
But they
Holy
just walked right
shit.
at me.
Oh my god. That is so weird. Could you imagine being there?
I am not going back in there. No f***ing way. That scared me half to death. Could have been me joining them. It
Right?
would give me a heart attack. I'm just gonna take one look. And then I think I'm done. I think I'm done with this area.
Yeah. You would move
Okay.
or
You see it?
put like a voice recorder.
Just tipped
It
over.
fell over.
That goblet or urn or whatever that is, it literally just slid right towards me.
I'm
You're
surprised
right
that
over
sound
there.
didn't get picked up.
And now look.
What the crack?
I don't think that was an invitation at all. The people
Well, it's like,
entombed in here,
hey, we're here.
they don't want me in here.
I don't
Sense
think
it
so.
right now.
I think they're just like,
I'm sorry. I'm
Proving
sorry for intruding.
that there is life after
I will
death.
leave now, okay?
Energy never dies. Never.
Alright. Time to check out
So,
Don's
I think
grave.
last time he was in the cemetery
I
and
actually brought a
he was
couple
by these
trick
trees.
objects. See if I can
There's like kids
Inside
running
a
around.
reaction.
You could hear the little footprints going through
Oh,
the
you're a
leaves and stuff
horse.
because it was like fall.
You don't speak English, but figured I should say hey. It's crazy to
Hey,
think that a horse is buried here.
of course, of
You
course.
really don't see that too often in cemeteries. Oh, Don. Brought you a
Oh, that's so sweet.
couple apples.
Heck yes.
Here you go, buddy.
That's freaking awesome.
Got a K2 next to him. Don, I brought those for you, buddy.
He said, like, I've never seen a pet buried in an actual cemetery. Like, this horse must have been amazing.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Look, look, look.
God, he
Spiking.
loves those apples.
It's spiking.
Like, cut him,
It's
cut him, cut
spiking
him.
like crazy. Holy crap. It's working. He's eating them. He's eating them. Look it. I can't believe this is actually working. That's it, buddy.
It's amazing.
Go ahead and take them. They're yours.
Can you imagine if one of the apples
Imagine
moved?
if one of those apples move.
That's what I just said.
Stop.
I swear to God, I have not seen this video before.
Don, you still here, buddy?
Nay, nay. Oh my
I wonder
goodness.
if he just gave
Could you
up.
imagine?
He's probably getting frustrated. Couldn't get to the apples.
Yeah, he can't eat it.
Don.
What? I hear it again.
Did you hear that?
No.
Holy crap.
Play it again.
That literally sounded like
Play it again, Sam.
trotting around over here.
Yes. What? That's awesome.
Don? Are you over here? Whoa, whoa. What was that? That was a terrifying man's voice I just heard.
What'd you say?
Hello?
Wow. So it's kind of like a service animal. Like a lot of people are like, don't touch this dog. Or whatever the service animal may be. But generally it's a dog. And some people are like, yeah, you can pet it. But other people are like, no, don't touch my dog. It's my service animal. If you touch it, you're going to distract it. So maybe he's very protective of his warhorse. I don't know. What do you think? Leave a comment. Crazy.
I suddenly got a pit in my stomach, and I do not feel welcome.
Oh,
Who said that?
I can't believe we heard that trotting in that horse
Speak
name.
out.
That's insane.
Who are you?
Yeah, who is this owner? Sorry, like I don't
That was
want
a
my
whisper.
headphones on. I have an earbud.
That was a whisper.
I want to hear it.
Same voice
Say it
and
again.
everything.
Say it again, Sam. Out of here. Wow.
I have a feeling I am not wanted for some reason.
Wow.
I sounded angry. Alright, I don't want to put in my luck. I'll leave, okay? I just gotta grab my K2 meter.
They should have a game show called that. Promise, you're up.
Oh my goodness.
You see, like, how
I don't know
far
what that was
people
about.
go just to get
Whoever
some
that was, they did not like me being over there. But hey, I think I got some really good interaction. That
Frick
was
yeah, you did.
crazy.
That's
He
insane.
was definitely going for those apples.
This is the tree where the kids ran last time. Is that? Yeah, it's a mausoleum.
Them toads are crazy loud tonight.
If they're
He was
quiet,
in here.
then you gotta worry. Jordan. What is this, Jordan?
Can't get any good pictures in there.
Sorry. Abo.
Oh, look at that.
Kind of looks like two figures.
It's a smiling Jack lookalike. You can't really see him on the infrared too well, but you can definitely make out their outlines.
It's like a husband and wife.
I'll take a picture later and let you guys see. But yeah, that's kind of wild. I did not know that. I didn't know there was a second stained glass smiling man. Seems like we have an imposter.
I think this is where he was last time. Oh, that's cute. Okay, so last time he was at the cemetery, he was there, and I think supposedly Smiling Jack will knock on the door if you knock. But the door looks different. Like the door for Smiling Jack I thought was iron, but you can see through this one, so I don't know. Look at those two. They're so beautiful. What a beautiful couple.
Hello, hello.
Oh, goodness. Do you walk by those trees that rustle themselves?
Whoa, what the heck? There's like a light on in there.
What? Seriously.
Are you seeing that? That's weird.
Did you imagine there's a candle?
See that?
What the hell?
I've never seen that before. A mausoleum with lights in it. Yeah, look at that. It's all lit up in there.
Maybe one of them was afraid of the dark?
Knocking on it. See what happens. Can't even do that. This fence is in the way.
You're freaking out.
That is so weird. I have never seen that before.
No, it was very interesting and intriguing. The lights
What
just
the
went,
hell?
no!
What the hell is
There's
going on?
somebody staying there. Do you think there's somebody staying there? Like a homeless person or something? Weird.
The light just went out. It literally just went out.
Try not to sneeze, I'm sorry. What the hell, dude? What? In the butt.
Who is in here?
I don't know. Who's in here? Nobody.
I can barely see in there. The mesh.
There's nothing.
But I can see enough.
I wish you could
Enough to know that there's no one in there.
So
why would there
be? I don't even see a candle.
It's locked. There's no way to get in there.
So
I think I'd be more freaked out if there was an actual person in there.
Right? What? Play it again, Sam.
What the hell is that?
I have to put it into my earballs. Something knocking on the tree? Wow. Wow.
Do you hear that? It sounds like banging sounds. I think I know where that's coming from, too.
Right? Run, Ian, run!
No way this is happening. No way this is happening.
This is so creepy.
Oh,
My God.
hear that?
Yeah, it sounds like a sprinkler or something.
That is literally Smiling Jack's door. And he's banging on it. Now it's completely stopped.
That's what I was talking about before. If you knock on his door, he'll knock back.
Is that you? Oh my God, you guys. I've got goosebumps all over.
Last name, was it Johnson?
I hear you in there.
Last name?
Do you need help? Knock on the door if you need help.
Could you imagine? Sorry, Jack.
I'm gonna try to use my K2.
Could you imagine
At
if
his
it did
door.
knock? Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no.
Jack, if you can hear my voice, could you touch
So
that
what
green
I'm gonna do
light?
really quick is to pause this and say goodbye to my Spreaker friends. Alright, guys. Thanks so much for joining me this evening on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. I'm so glad you could join me on this damn old channel. Thanks for hanging out and listening to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I really had a really good time reading it. I almost did it for the third hour, but I'm like, let's kind of stick with the same rotation we do and do a cookie video. And I'm so glad I did because I haven't watched the video yet. I was waiting for you guys to be there. So, yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed it, even though those of you on Spreaker can't hear it. No, you can hear it, you can't see it. Anyways, don't forget, we're all in this together. Together, we can make the world a bit better. And together, my friends, we are Paradox Media, because without you, there's no us. I hope you guys have an amazing week this week. Yeah, that's Hercules. He just has a smile when I say something. Take care of my youth, take care of each other, and I'll see you next weekend. Same crazy time, same crazy place.